All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this session of the EDUCAUSE Demo Day on Identity Verification and Fraud Services. I'm your host, Lene Oflahaven. The content for this demo is provided by Campus Guard. Throughout the demo, you can use the chat to share comments or ask questions to our presenters. If you would like to view closed captioning, click the Show Captions button on the bottom of the Zoom room. Now, please join me in welcoming our presenters from Campus Guard.
Thank you very much, Lene. I'm super excited to be here to present to everybody Seen, Verified, and Stopped, how verified credentials can help to combat ghost students and other types of fraud. So a little bit about me. If I can get my arrow to work here. My name is Ryan Renier. I'm Cybersecurity Director of Protective Operations over here at Campus Guard and Nelnet. I've been at the parent company, Nelnet, for just over 13 years, and I've been working in technology for just a little more than 30 years. And with me, I have Mr. Mike Jordan. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Thanks, Ryan. Yes. Mike Jordan, I've been in IT and cybersecurity for about 20 years, but 15 of it at Campus Guard Nelnet. So, yeah, very happy to be here today.
Thank you. Yeah, and as I said, we are extremely excited to introduce you to Verified Credentials and this brand new partnership between Campus Guard and Verified Orchestration and how that can work together to stop this ghost student fraud. So, really quick look at the agenda. Really, our goal here is to introduce you to verified credentials. We're assuming that maybe this is a new concept for some of you. We're going to compare that to kind of the traditional password methods, the way that we've been doing things for a very long time. And then we're going to go into the ghost student fraud, a little explanation on what that is, and then specifically how VO and verified credentials can help to stop that. And then we'll wrap up by going over a few additional use cases that you could use a verified credential for. But first, let's talk a little bit about Campus Guard, if you haven't heard of us. So Campus Guard was founded in 2009, and they really started as a security and compliance vendor to higher education. Well, they've grown since then to really provide those same type of services to healthcare, government, really any large entity that's really bringing like smaller entities together to act as a single large entity. And as I mentioned before, Nelnet is a part, or I'm sorry, Campus Guard is a part of the Nelnet family. You might have heard of Nelnet before if you have a student loan or you're familiar with student loans. That is because Nelnet is the low or the servicer of federal loans for the for federal student loans, excuse me, for the government. So Nelnet has offices in about a dozen locations in the U.S. and 5 international locations. As I mentioned, Mike and I work for the parent company, Nelnet. And this new partnership that Campus Guard has is with Verified Orchestration. And they're a relatively new company. They were founded in 2023, but they've already kind of shown themselves to be a leader in this verified credential space. They've earned this title of elite security partner with Microsoft. And we really feel like they do a great job in helping us to manage verified credentials within our organization. So I'm going to really start by taking a look at physical identity right now, because this will help to kind of frame this idea of a verified credential. So let's use this example of a passport. So if you're familiar with passports, right, there's an issuer. In this case, we're talking about the federal government who does some type of process to validate your identity. It's an application, kind of this long process, but eventually they say, yep, Mike Jordan is Mike Jordan, and they're ready to give him a passport. And then Mike becomes the holder of that passport, right? So he has physical control over that passport. It is his to protect. It is his to use when he needs to use it. And then the verifier, in this case, would be like TSA. When Mike wants to use that passport, he presents it to the verifier and they check and make sure everything looks correct. And they grant him access to whatever he's looking to do. But really the key idea in this whole model is that you, as the holder, are in control of that identity, right? You're not being asked to provide any kind of secret or password. You are proving that you are who you say they are, or that you are because the issuer has gone through the verification process and given you something that proves that you are who you say you are. And this is fundamentally different, right, from passwords, right? So if you think about really how passwords work, well, this technology hasn't changed since the 50s, right? So for the last 70 years, it's basically been about the same. Now we've added things like multi-factor or we've increased the complexity of passwords, but they're fundamentally the same thing, right? So if you want to get access to a system, the person that owns that system has a central location, a database that they're keeping a record of you, right? So that's your username and your password. And then as the person requesting access, you really just have to remember a secret. That's what a password is, right? It's a secret. And that secret can easily be stolen, it can be shared with other people, right? So it is not proving that you are who you say you are and that you deserve to have access to that resource. It's really just proving that you can remember a secret, right? And it's fundamentally flawed because that's the number one attack vector, right? Users or the bad actors know this. They attack the end user by sending phishing campaigns, trying to trick you into giving them that secret. Or if one person gives up that secret, then all of the other secrets on that central location are at risk. So as an example, Mike might use a very strong password, but if they phish me and I give up my credentials, well, they have access to that database and then they can get Mike's credential also. And then also there's this burden on the user, right? I mean, again, I think all of us know how many passwords we have to try to remember every day. You probably manage hundreds of passwords in your everyday life, right? Your institution, your email, your bank accounts, or everybody has a password. And that can become really hard on the user, right? Trying to remember all these different passwords. A lot of times then we get lazy and we say, you know what, this is my favorite password. I'm going to use it in every location. Well, the problem with that again is if you get phished and the bad guy finds your password for, let's say, your bank account, and if you're using that same password for your institution, then of course they have your password for your institution as well. So just fundamentally flawed, but it's the way that we know it's what we've been doing for the last 70 some years. So we want to introduce this new idea called a verifiable credential. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail here on the next slide, but fundamentally, this eliminates passwords, right? We are not talking about a password anymore. We are talking about some technology that you as the holder are in complete control of. You store it on a device that you own. It is truly passwordless. So there's no database for the bad guys to steal, and it just makes the overall user experience much, much simpler. So, Mike, can you walk us through a little bit about what a verified credential is and how it's different from traditional passwords?
Certainly, Ryan. So the idea of a verified credential deviates from just a standard username and password in the fact that the verified credential itself can hold specific data, otherwise called a claim, and that data is transmitted when the user wants to. So since it is cryptographically tied to a specific device, the user has complete control whether they send that data or not. And that could be as simple as I'm choosing to log into a website. But if that verified credential holds data or PII or information that's sensitive to the owner of that data, they ultimately have control whether to share that data or not. And the physical connection to that device allows for greater administrative control as well. So you are able to choose who and when you give credentials to, and can even build a network of trust between how you accept those credentials, depending on what the given application is. But really, at the end of the day, it changes the user experience in an extremely positive way because you don't have to remember something specific or unique when you're creating the password or having to go through password policy changes because submitting that verified credential to that endpoint or to that website is really the main portion of it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And if this all seems kind of strange or weird, you probably have questions. We hope you do. We're going to get into a lot more detail and explain it in like I said, a lot more detail to hopefully drive kind of some of these points home. But again, we're eliminating that number one threat vector. That's kind of the key point here is the phishing really becomes something that is almost impossible. Right now, if you're phished, they're asking for a username and password, and with the credential, you just don't have a password to give up. So like I said, we're talking about this fundamental shift, right? So the holder, again, the person in control of the data, you, the person that has that credential, you are in complete control of that the entire time. Decentralized, meaning there's no database for the bad guys to get into. You're storing that on your individual device. Let's kind of dig into that just for a second. So in a traditional way, we already talked about how easy it is to either have your password stolen or shared with other people. What we're talking about by decentralizing this right now is each holder has a copy of that credential, right? It has your own individual credential. So if you think about the effort that it would take to get control of that, really, we're talking about physical access to the person and physical access to their device and maybe any biometrics that are protecting that device in order to steal that identity, which just makes it much, much more difficult to steal that. We've also talked a little bit about this proving that you are who you say you are, not that you can remember a secret. Super portable, meaning it's on your phone. We're going to show you some of that here in a second. And then that user experience is dramatically improved because we're not asking you to remember hundreds of passwords anymore. So some of the benefits at a high level, right? We mentioned digital, stored within Microsoft Authenticator on your device, biometrically secure. So if you're using biometrics to unlock your phone, we can tie those biometrics to your verified credentials so that anybody just having access to your phone doesn't automatically get control of that credential. Cryptographically secure, meaning we've got public and private keys that we're sharing to prove, that we are who we say we are. Super easy to use. Minimizing the data sharing, and again, the user is in control. So a lot of you might be thinking, well, it sounds a lot like a passkey, or it's a lot of benefits, or the same benefits of a passkey. And I'd say you're probably right, but there are some fundamental differences. And then I think there's also some really good ways to use both. Mike, can you walk us through really the difference between the VC and passkeys, but then also how we might be able to use both of them?
Yes. So both technologies use cryptography and enrollment of a device to the endpoint, to the website that you're getting into. And the nice thing about passkeys is kind of also one of the downsides. Passkeys can sync between devices, and that really aids the user experience. But what's interesting about verified credentials is because they're cryptographically tied to that specific device, it actually gives the administrators an extra degree of control. So when you choose to say, okay, this particular user with this particular credential and this particular device, when you need that level of control, that's where we really think that the answer is both. They're not really competing technologies. They complement each other and really become really technologies in a layered defense that really helps you protect whatever you're trying to do. And usually it's preventing fraud.
Thanks, Mike. And I just realized I forgot to mention that we were going to have a poll. So I appreciate folks putting the poll questions up. And then also we've got some results here as well. We're starting to get some good questions in too. There's one that is asking about when users potentially change a phone. So towards the end of the presentation, we're going to introduce kind of the self-service portal that will help if a user does get a new phone. It seems like either losing a phone or breaking a phone or getting a new phone at Christmas is something that we're all very familiar with. So we'll specifically address that here in a little while. So we want to take a look at a really quick video from VO on how verified credentials work and specifically how VO is helping to manage those for you.
For decades, digital identity has relied on the same flawed foundation: usernames, passwords, centralized databases full of personal information. And despite layers of security built on top, two-factor authentication, security questions, and biometric patches, the core problem remains. Organizations still cannot truly know who they are dealing with. Credentials get shared, identities get stolen, data gets breached. The system was not built for the trust demands of the modern world. There is a better way. VO, Verified Orchestration, is a modern digital identity platform built on a fundamentally different model. Rather than relying on centralized records, VO is built on verifiable credentials, an open standard putting trust, security, and control at the center of every interaction. So, what exactly is a verifiable credential? Think of it as the digital equivalent of a physical document, like a passport or a degree certificate. It is cryptographically secured, tamper-proof, and instantly verifiable by anyone who needs to trust it. A verifiable credential is issued by a trusted authority, a university, an employer, or a government body. It is held securely by the individual in their own digital wallet, not stored in a central database. And when it needs to be verified, at enrollment, at login, or a compliance check, it can be confirmed in seconds without exposing unnecessary personal data. The credential cannot be forged or shared. The individual remains in full control. This is decentralized identity, the most significant shift in digital trust in a generation. VO makes deploying verifiable credentials straightforward. The platform operates across 3 simple steps. First, issue. An organization uses VO to create and issue a verifiable credential, a student enrollment, employee access, or a professional license. Second, hold. The individual receives their credential in a secure digital wallet. It belongs to them, travels with them, and is always under their control. Third, verify. When needed, they present their credential. VO verifies it instantly, confirming authenticity and context without needing a central authority. The entire process is seamless, secure, and takes seconds. VO makes this standard immediately accessible. Many organizations find adoption difficult or dependent on bespoke code. VO was built specifically to solve that problem. Our integration-first platform requires no bespoke code. It connects to your existing systems and can be configured in minutes, not months. The experience for users is passwordless and frictionless, removing the burden of password management entirely. For administrators, VO delivers enterprise-grade audit and compliance reporting, a real-time record of every credential issued and verified. Because identity is decentralized, organizations dramatically reduce their exposure to data breaches and privacy risk. VO does not ask you to rebuild your infrastructure. It asks you to trust a better standard and makes it accessible now. Verified orchestration is redefining trust in education, enterprise, and government. Trusted credentials, instant verification, zero compromise. To learn more or experience.
So I should have mentioned Verified Orchestration is an Australian company. So if you saw some of the Australian spelling of certain words, that is why. As I mentioned, though, welcome Verified Orchestration. So we're extremely excited to partner, Campus Guard and VO partnered together to bring verified credentials to all of you. We've mentioned already, and you saw in the video, right, that these are W3C verified credentials, meaning that they adhere to the World Wide Web Consortium. We mentioned these living on Microsoft Authenticator. We're getting some questions about the use of changing phones or even Microsoft Entra ID, verified ID. Yes is the short answer to whether or not they are able to be integrated with Microsoft Entra verified ID. But again, also we want to kind of foot stomp this idea of biometrics and hardware backed trust, right? Using authenticators, the security built into that, truly passwordless. And then the other thing that I get excited about too is the ability to send all of this data to your SIM, right? To your security operations center. And they can build out monitors and alerting if something strange looks like it's happening with the use of one of these credentials. So as I mentioned, Campus Guard and Nelnet has leveraged verified orchestration as a part of our passwordless journey. So we spent, we began this last fall and are really tremendously far along on our passwordless journey. And Mike, I might have you kind of speak to this. You were really heavily involved in the rollout and implementation of verified credentials within Campus Guard and Nelnet. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, Ryan. So point and then details. The point was it was a very quick implementation. We started building out the SaaS environment and hit the ground running. And within 7 days, literally, the environment stood up. we were able to get the IDP integrations going on our side, and we're building credentials right out of the gate. And so for us, we're approaching a full year into this process now, and we're happy to say that we have 4,000 plus credentials deployed across our environment with many different use cases too. Some of them are just a standard credential that means, hey, I am who I am, and this is where I work. And some of them have more complicated features that really safeguard controls and access.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So we keep talking about how easy these are to use. So we want to give you a demonstration of exactly how this works. So this is a super quick demo. I would say don't blink because you'll miss it. It only takes about 30 or 35 seconds to present that credential and to get logged into a Nelnet system. But here you go. This is a example of how we're using this within Nelnet. So in this video, we're presenting the end user that's trying to get to a resource. I'm going to turn this sound down here. There's a QR code. And with my phone, I'm taking out the smartphone and I'm scanning that QR code. And then I'm tapping the notification. So you'll see here, it's my phone. And it knows that this verified credential lives in Authenticator. So I'm going to go ahead and open in Authenticator. You see on the screen, it says, okay, we're waiting for the user to respond in Authenticator. Here's my credential. I'm choosing to sign on to a Nelnet resource, so I'm going to go ahead and accept that, and then away you go. You can see that it's been accepted on the phone. And returning back to the site that we're on, and that is it. It's that logs us in. So again, you didn't see a password at all in that case. It was just a QR code that we're scanning with our phone and then using Microsoft Authenticator, letting it do the rest for us. So we want to transition into kind of this idea of this ghost student, right? So we'll dig into a little bit about what's happening with the ghost student fraud, and then specifically how the VCs and VO can help to prevent that. I do see another question though about using the credential for a VDI environment. Again, the short answer for that is yes. Nelnet has several virtual desktops for end users, call center or what have you, and we can leverage the verified credential for all of our different use cases. So let's go ahead and listen to see how the ghost students are, how this fraud works, and then how VCs can help in that space.
Ghost students are costing the education sector billions. Fraudulent enrollments, fake identities, students who exist on paper, but nowhere else. For universities, administrators, and governments, the consequences are severe. Lost funding, compliance failures, and reputational damage. It's a problem hiding in plain sight. Meet VO, Verified Orchestration, the modern digital identity platform built to eliminate credential fraud before it starts. Using verifiable credentials, VO confirms that every enrolled student is exactly who they claim to be, in real time, every time. Here's how it works. A student enrolls. VO instantly issues and verifies their digital credential, cryptographically secured and tamper-proof. When they access campus systems, sit an exam, or claim financial support, their identity is verified at that moment, with full audit trail captured automatically. No passwords, no workarounds, no ghost students. The results speak for themselves. Real-time identity verification stops fraudulent enrollments at the source. AI-powered fraud detection flags anomalies before they become liabilities. A complete compliance and audit trail satisfies regulatory requirements effortlessly, and institutions reduce the operational cost of chasing and managing fraudulent records, saving time, money, and reputation. VO is trusted by leading institutions and backed by Microsoft Entra Verified ID. No bespoke code, no lengthy implementation, up and running in minutes.
Okay, so let's dig into kind of this ghost student fraud just a little bit more, right? So I'm guessing most of you are very familiar with this type of fraud, but if you're not, this is when a bad actor is either stealing somebody's identity or creating a fake identity to enroll in classes and then eventually claim financial support for that, and then unenroll or pull out, drop the class, and then request a refund of that money. And this is all happening. This is all able to happen because we've already talked about, right? The system is relying on passwords that are super easy to steal or reuse. A lot of times, even if you do have MFA, it might be ineffective MFA. And then the other problem that we see is everyone is doing it a little bit different, right? The bad guys have the fraud down, right? They're all following very similar playbooks, but the good guys, all of us, are doing it a little bit different. So it's difficult to basically stop them. They can adopt a lot easier than we can. So again, the old ways are really just easy to falsify. And then there's no real visibility throughout that entire process to prove the identity of that person throughout that entire flow of enrollment through a refund. So why do some of these traditional controls fail, right? I mentioned on that last slide, even if you have MFA in place, a lot of times that could be ineffective. So we have this idea of SIM swapping. Mike, can you kind of walk us through what SIM swapping means?
Yeah, and we'll start at the very beginning. So bad actors impersonate and steal data. We know that. And we know that one of the things they do is send messages out and try to get people to click on those links over text. Well, when it's a focused attack and someone's trying to intercept your SMS messages, maybe to recover an account, or maybe they have a victim's information and they're trying to falsify that. One of the mechanisms that the bad actors use is basically contacting the mobile carrier and trying to move that phone number from device A to device B. And in this scenario, that physical changing of the phone, right, it impacts the victim, and the bad actor can start intercepting and doing what they do, damaging the reputation and causing loss. So that specific SMS SIM swapping scenario is really what the value of tying those credentials to that device provides. So it's a direct solution.
Thanks, Mike. I'm seeing in one of the questions, there is a question about a current customer of Nelnet using Nelnet for services. Do they need to purchase VO to be used with Nelnet, or is it a service of Nelnet? So this kind of goes to that last bullet, right? This lack of cross-system trust right now in the old way. Well, using a verified credential, or specifically a verified orchestration, there is trust that can happen across all of these different entities. So in this case, if the school itself was using verified orchestration to issue creds, Nelnet, as a refund processor, could choose to trust that verified credential and leverage that within our systems, thus really proving that identity using what the school has done to prove the identity and trusting that across into the refund process. Now, I'll tell you, there's a couple of different ways. We feel like an institution could be using verified credentials for all of their students or all of their staff. But also here at Nelnet, we realize that maybe a lot of people haven't gotten to that point yet. So we are looking at our individual products to see if we can also integrate verified credentials into them to provide some additional layers of security as well. So let's look, kind of summarize here how VO is preventing the ghost students, right? So we've talked quite a bit about the strong identity proofing at enrollment, right? Being tied to your phone, being anchored, phishing resistant, not able to really steal these identities at all without complete physical contact with the person and their device. And again, being device bound, using Microsoft Authenticator. I should also mention that in a very short amount of time, this will be native also to like the Apple wallets and also the Google wallets. But again, not being able to clone that device, the reuse of the single digital trusted identity. This really, if you issue a credential to a student to be able to log in to see their classes, they can also use that to get into a dining hall or get access to a building or use that in the bookstores, those types of things. Also, we're eliminating weak multi-factor authentication. It's just, again, a lot of the old ways of doing things just aren't relevant in this new way. And then I also, again, being a cybersecurity director, I really get excited about being able to send all of this data to your security operations center so that they can detect any fraud in real time. So again, strong cryptographic reusable identities, secure device bound, can't transfer those from one to the other. We mentioned sending this information to your security teams. From there, we can use AI and machine learning to detect any anomalies. And then super low friction for your users, which I personally like as well, right? The fact that we don't have to remember yet another username and password just makes it so much easier. And the result, Ghost student fraud becomes operationally, technically, and cryptographically infeasible, right? You think about today, a bad actor might be able to grab 1,000 usernames and passwords through one phishing campaign. The level of effort to grab 1,000 verified credentials is nearly impossible, is definitely infeasible. So I'm going to ask Mike to talk a little bit about this thing called the Verified Orchestration Composer. So for all the administrators out there, Mike, can you spend a minute kind of walking us through this?
Yes, but first, quick comment on the questions. We've got some excellent questions rolling
Mhm.
in that are focused and perfect. So we'll address those towards the end. But from an administrator point of view, there's features of verified orchestration that make life a lot easier. And I mean, the main selling point is if you wanted to run with verified credentials on your own, it is possible to build your own code and do this because of the open nature of the technologies. But what the composer does inside of verified orchestration is it really simplifies the idea that you are creating a credential and choosing which claims or data you're capturing in that. Okay, so that's the first step. And then you're going to decide what access you're going to be granting them to. And that could include specific websites, um, different portals within the campus. There's a whole layer of IT administrative decisions that are applicable to how you do business, and those need to be um, decided on and acted on. And that's what the composer really gives you uh, the advantage and the starting point essentially.
Yeah.
So you can choose groups of people, you can choose individuals, you can make decisions on where you're accepting that credential and what information is in that credential.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to point out too is this composer is not storing that information about the user, right, Mike? I mean, that's still being stored in the credential on the phone securely.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, and then we also had a really good question about what if somebody gets a new phone or they break their phone? Well, we have the concierge. So, Mike, can you kind of walk us through what the concierge is designed to do for us?
Yes. Um, Concierge is a feature of the verified orchestration platform, and it is essentially a trusted self-service portal that helps assist the user manage those credentials. And these are administrative decisions that need to be made. And you can either give more freedom to the user and let them be fully empowered to create credentials and issue them and control them back and forth, or you can lock that down depending on is this an IT or security use case, or is this an administrative use case? But the feature itself is a place where users can go and begin that process of changing devices. So just as though the verified credential is tied to that specific hardware, there is some work that needs to be involved there when it comes to changing hardware. It's not a complete backup and restore, and that is by design. And this feature is really how you streamline that process and improve that user experience. Because in the meantime, when the VC, the verified credential is running, it's passwordless the whole entire time. So there's just a bit more work to do, and this is where it's controlled.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So again, we're getting a lot of good questions. I think we're going to have 8 or 9 minutes to kind of handle all of those. We get just a few other slides to get through. We really wanted to talk a little bit about some additional high value use cases that we're seeing with the use of verified credentials. So streamlining secure onboarding for employees. So now that as maybe a lot of you are dealing with hiring fraud, so specifically North Koreans trying to get technology jobs within Nelnet. Mike, can you talk a little bit about how we're using verified cred to stop that hiring fraud?
Yes. So there's again, taking a step back, there's choices to be made when and how you trust issuing a credential. And some of the questions, we'll touch on these specifically, but some of the questions are addressing, well, how do we actually confirm this person is who they say they are? And that is a decision that's made like prior to this. And so at Nelnet, basically what we're deciding to do is during the background check portion of an applicant, that step is when we are choosing to begin the baseline level of trust when we're issuing verified credentials. And for different environments, you could choose to do that. Maybe the student, let's say, has been in the environment for a while, and at the point when they're trying to get a refund or interact with money, maybe that's the step where your process controls and lets you actually confirm who they say they are. And then they have that credential, right? Like you're there and you can confirm it and they can get granted the access that you desire for them.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. A couple other use cases, transient or mobile worker access. You probably have remote students within your organization. Again, this is a great way to validate that it's the person that you expect to be taking that class or performing that work for you, that it's actually a person that you expect to doing that for you. The enhanced reputation, right, by reducing this phishing risk to your organization. Verified help desk for employees and contractors. I do see that we have a question out here about help desk really shifting from password resetting to reconfiguring hardware, smartphones. I think that's a great use case. That's a great example. The VO has a help desk specific product where if you're on the help desk and somebody calls and says, "Hey, I need account information for blah blah blah," and they claim to be Mike Jordan, well, you can issue near real-time question to that person using the credential to say, "Yep, I am actually who I say I am," and then that reduces that fraud. Also, if you have like any kind of loyalty programs, maybe your bookstore has a loyalty program, you can tie the credential to that to make sure that it's the same person. And then if you're asking your folks to do continuous skill improvement or training, again, this eliminates the risk of somebody else attending that course on behalf of them and is actually going to the right person. Okay, so we will jump into the additional questions that we've been receiving here, but we do want to call out that we will be at, Campus Guard will be at EDUCAUSE CPPC here at the end of April. We're excited about that. We've got a couple of sessions going on. You can see the details there on April 28th and then again on April 30th. And then Mike and I, along with the Campus Guard team, would love to talk to you more, get into some of the technology specifics, look at your environment and explain maybe how it would work in your specific environment. So if you do want more information, please go to campusguard.com/contact us, as you can see on the screen. And again, we'd love to have additional conversations with you. So let's start looking at some of these questions on the screen here, Mike. I think we mentioned about what happens when the users change their phones. They would use the concierge to help with that. Certainly does integrate with Microsoft Entra Verified ID. That's really a core part of this technology. We do have a question about maybe high schools or different areas where personal devices are not allowed. So that's where this does get tricky, where you do have to have a place to store that credential. In our environment, we do have some people that choose not to use their personal device to log on. It's a choice that we allow some people to make. Maybe they have a reason, a medical reason that they can't use a smartphone, etc. Well, for that reason, there's no reason why you have to go 100% VCs. You can have this hybrid model where you allow some people to have passwords and other people to have VCs. We would like to have more and more people use the VCs. Again, that cuts down on that potential for the bad guys to get in and steal data. The other way that we would address this as well is you could have institution-owned devices that credentials are on. So as an example, if Mike didn't want to use his personal cell phone, we could issue him a phone from within Campus Guard and Nelnet that would have and then go through the process of issuing a credential to it, and then he could use that instead. But it is device bound, so that is something that an institution would have to make some decisions around to be able to use that. We did also answer the question about what Nelnet is potentially doing within it'll be like plumbing verified credentials into some of our products, specifically our refund product. Our product teams are looking at a way to do that, to provide that as another security step for all of you. And then we've got a question here about how the credentials ID initially are verified. So Mike talked a little bit about that in kind of going through that verification process using the background check on the fraudulent applicants for Campus Guard and Nelnet. But that's maybe one thing that we do need to point out is that VO is not providing the verification part of that. They're relying on your organization's processes to validate people. Now, there are some ways that we can help with that. We can certainly partner. They'll plumb into about anything, but that is something that you absolutely have to get right before you issue the credential. It's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. So that is a
Exactly.
critical, very first step. So Mike, yeah, do you have anything to add on that
Yeah,
particular one?
just planning that out. It's different for everybody's environment, but it's the main thing, right? So you need to confirm that the person you're granting that credential to equals the amount of access that you're giving them. And in some scenarios, that could be a low trust credential, right? If it's just an ID card that lets you get points at the bookstore or something like that, then it's fairly low risk. But in scenarios where it is higher risk, then it absolutely warrants better planning and better action.
Well, and another thing I want to point out in the few minutes that we have left, this idea of being able to trust other sources. So if you live in a state where you're being issued a digital driver's license, a digital driver's license is a verified credential. It's the exact same thing. What VO is doing is allowing your people to log in using that credential. So in that instance, as an example, Colorado issues digital driver's licenses. They've gone through the process of validating that you are who you say they are, and they issue you a digital driver's license. Well, in that case, we can trust that as a way to validate the identity of that person and issue a credential based off of that.
Exactly.
I do see a question, sorry, Mike,
No, it's
about
good.
are there any other schools or universities using this solution today? So, since verified orchestration is relatively new, they've made the most progress in that Australian market right now. So there's some very large companies or organizations, really government organizations within kind of those markets that are leveraging the verified credentials right now. But Campus Guard is really working to introduce this idea to schools and universities. So if you would like to be one of the first schools or universities to use the solution, we would certainly love to talk to you. And I see Lene is coming on. I don't know if that's our hook to stop talking or not, but we've I think got to well, there's the one question about the virtual environments, and then again, I think the short answer is yes.
Yeah, and there
we
was
can keep
one where
playing that.
someone said we're basically changing usernames and passwords for supporting phones. The one comment on that's interesting is the frequency. So depending on your password policy, you could be helping users at the help desk at a very frequent interval. It could be a month, it could be 90 days, depending on that policy. But people don't change their phones that often. So that impulse is much lower for when you're actually helping them if they need help.
That's a good point. So, Lene, I think we'll turn it back over to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. We are out of time, unfortunately. On behalf of EDUCAUSE, thank you, Mike and Ryan and Campus Guard for your presentation today, and thank you all for joining this demo session. Please share your feedback using the online poll on your screen. The demo recording and resources will be available later on the event site, where you will also be able to share your contact information directly with our presenters. We look forward to seeing you at our next session starting in just a minute. Thanks so much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.